the Anne Walker and White Arrow as the, as the book that you've now got, the way that came to me was just so bizarre. But once you look back on these things, that this is supposed to happen. I was supposed to get that. That was going to lead to this, to that, to that. And then it leads to you. Where does it lead beyond? I don't know. I'm excited about it.
I know. I always, I can remember sitting with so many people who would be talking to me about mistakes they made or dead ends that they felt they had gone to. But we're sitting together, and as they're looking back, they can see there wasn't any mistake. There
Mm.
wasn't any dead end. It's like whatever happened, even if it was distressing, it brought you right here. And whether we're sitting together to do healing or invite further transformational growth, here we are. And so to take away that thing of like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake or this was a failure,
Mm.
it's like it's all, I mean, I've learned so much from the mistakes I've made,
For sure.
you know?
I have like so many, you can't see it from where you are, but I have so many affirmations and stuff around here. And this one here says to see setbacks as the opportunities for personal growth that they truly represent, right?
Exactly.
That's an important one.
That's an important one.
And that one
Yeah.
I wrote 6 years ago, and that's followed me around, across continents ever since. And the truth of it, because
Mhm.
I know that even if I look at the challenges that I've had, and I've had challenges, but not, I've had a blessed existence. I know I've had
Mm,
a blessed existence,
mm,
but
mm.
those challenges, when they do come along, I wouldn't be who I am now, sat where I am, had I not had those challenges.
That's it. That's it. And I don't always know if I created or I don't even try to go into that. It's just when something happens, it's like, what can I learn from this?
Yeah,
How can I experience this as something that is challenging me to grow or deepen or let go of some attachment to something that I've gotten constricted around? And then the prayer to Holy Mystery, whatever you call that, is like, help this be medicine for me.
mm, yeah, I like that.
I remember my prayer when I woke up my 50th birthday, which was a long time ago, was Great Spirit, remove everything from me. This was a scary thing to pray,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
wasn't, it just, the prayer was there, and I'm going, oh my gosh, remove everything that gets in the way of my being who I came here to be so that I can do what you asked me to do.
Mm,
And a lot of the difficulties have been those places where I hit up against something that's interfering with my being, whatever it is the divine is asking me to be.
yeah.
So it's a whole different way of understanding and finding meaning, even in the chat, like you said, going through a divorce.
Mm,
I don't care how even, warm or loving it is, that's rough.
yeah,
That's rough.
yeah, yeah. And you know, once you start to understand that everything happens for you rather than
Yeah.
against you, then you can allow things to move on through, and it just gets easier because what we resist persists. And this is going to be one of the big challenges coming up for a lot of people because they're
Ah,
not going to like what is going to happen.
that's
And
right.
therefore, resistance is the natural way of doing things. So, where we have to encourage people is to say, okay, and this is what we've been doing, is trying to encourage that message to
Hmm.
say, allow it through,
Hmm.
feel
Yes.
it,
Yes.
release it,
Yes.
but allow
Yes.
yourself to go through it and come through the other side. And I'm learning as I go along as well.
It's like the emotion of fear
Mm,
that's being so activated right now that, and I love what you just said, that if I resist fear, I might effectively bury it, but then it comes up even bigger in another way.
yeah.
So how do I encounter fear, welcome, greet, can you tell me about yourself? Sometimes there's something legitimate. We've got a red fire emergency here in Massachusetts. So when I sat with fear, because I went through a big fire out in Northern California in 2017, what fear said was, get your go bag ready.
Mm,
Just gather together the things you want to have in your car. So if you have to go, stuff is there.
yes.
And then thank you, fear, for that message. And then again, energy and motion, emotion, it was able to shift.
Mm,
But the way it's being cultivated right now is like a state we're all supposed to be living in a whole time.
yeah.
That's why I think the kind of meditations that Jolie is doing is so important, because it's like this vibrational field. It's not just fear comes in and says, get your go bag ready, or gee, there's something going on, you might want to check with the doctor, or whatever it is. Uh, this one is more what you folks are doing, which is about you have to raise your field above it,
Mm, yeah.
because it's not just fear coming in for a specific thing. It's this lower vibrational energy, what has been active in the planet for so long, all about, I'm scared of you because you're a different race or a different ethnicity or a different gender or a different nation, all the tribal stuff. That's just like here.
Yeah.
And that's not about processing, in
Mm,
my opinion. That's about raising our consciousness so we can see it from that eagle eye view,
yeah.
send blessing and love and healing energy,
Yes.
but not try to metabolize it in my own body.
No. No. And I think Gregg Braden, we've used this a couple of times really already, but it's the gift of the blessing, which is the prayer, where it's a three-part prayer, where
Wow.
you offer blessings to the victims of whatever it is that you're looking at. It could be genocide, right? You offer that. The second part to it is to offer blessings to the perpetrators
Yes.
of the problem,
Yes.
right? That they may know themselves through their actions. And then the third one is the gift of the blessing to yourself for having been the witness,
That's wonderful.
isn't it? It's really powerful. It's really powerful. If people can actually exercise that every time they come up with something that is, something that really raises that fear vibration, or, it may be anger, it may be division, it could be anything, because it's being presented to us now because it needs to be released. It's trapped in the earth for
It's
thousands of
trapped.
years. It has to
Yes.
come out. And it's going to manifest itself in such a variety of ways
Ways, yeah.
that eagle's perch perspective enables you to see it and understand it for what it is, so that you can kind of move through it. And yeah.
It's I'm gonna integrate that three blessings. I love that, because I noticed about 3 weeks ago I was driving around and I saw a number of political things out front. Some of them just had the name, others had pretty vicious wording. And I was driving down the road, and and usually my response was kind of not fear, but like contraction.
Mm,
And a couple of 3 or so weeks ago, I'm driving down this road that I drive all the time, and there's a signage out front. And John, completely unconsciously, my hand went up and just did a blessing of the cross. And
mm,
it was this, because it was this sense of, this person is suffering.
mm,
This person is in so much pain. There's fear, there's rage, there's confusion. And it was, and I'm, my hand is doing this, and I'm like, oh, this is what you're asking me to do now. But it was just like the one thing, oh, blessings upon you, may you be healed, your poor hearts,
yeah.
your poor minds. But this one is actually much more complete. So thank you. I will actually bring that into my prayer practice.
What I will do is I will forward to you the gift of the blessing, because we put it together. We put it into a YouTube, uh,
Oh, wonderful.
because we've used it in a couple of shows going back a few months ago. But I think now is the time when it's going to become more important, because if you come across other people that need it, just forward the link to them,
I will.
Gregg is a powerful communicator, and it's his words, it's
That's
his words,
wonderful.
his delivery, his explanation. And it's because of that, it makes it more powerful still, and his explanations that go with it. So absolutely, I will forward that to you.
But so let me share with you what happened. About 20 or so years ago, I was taking a class in past life regression, in a particular way of doing it. And it was my turn to be the client. And usually you'd pick a particular issue. So I think I don't know, probably working on some finances or something. I had a question. And then the question was to go into a life where I could meet a part, another aspect of myself that would be helpful. So she guided me through the process, and I stepped through this door, and I was in this really lovely place. It looks sort of a little bit desert-like. The
Uh-huh.
houses were 1 or 2 stories. They had that kind of beige sand color. There were all these plants that looked like cactus. And as I stepped through, I saw this woman sitting on a stone bench in this area where there were these different plants. And I was also aware, I was kind of in a town square with people, some of them walking, some of them had bicycles, probably about 30 people kind of going back and forth in their day. It was daytime. And I went and walked over to her to sit down because I knew she was the one I was meeting. And the first thing I noticed as I sat down was that a number of people became aware that something was happening on that bench. So several of them put down their bicycles or walked over, and there was probably a group of about 15 or 20 standing in a circle, far enough away to give us privacy, but they were standing there with their hands out, sending this energy.
Mm.
So I sit down with her, and the first thing she tells me is that she's a minor city official. And I always love that because I'm never Nefertiti or anything. It's like I'm always just a regular person, which makes me believe it, more. So I had this interaction with her back and forth. I remember it being very helpful, very kind of grounded. And as I was about ready to leave, I looked at her and this is all telepathic, and it's like I don't recognize where I am. What is this? And she said, "This is Jerusalem, 200 years in your future."
Wow.
And the woman who was sitting with me said she could see my face sort of suffuse with emotion. And she wasn't worried about me where she needed to bring, but she knew something was happening. So I gave thanks. But when I came back out, John, I was in tears. And I said to her, the earth survives.
Mhm.
Jerusalem, that tortured part of the planet, survives. And not only that, the vibration of the people and the beauty of the place. It's like, for all I know, Jerusalem was razed to the ground and they put up these little buildings. I have no idea. But the fact that the people were there, that they were energetically aware that something was happening and they came to support whatever this was. Whenever I feel despair about the human race, I go back to that memory and that this is what we're moving towards. There was such gentleness, there was such care, there was such a feeling of community. I mean, that was it. I was like held in this
Yes.
community. So, so when you and Jolie were talking about this is where we're going, I thought I wanted to share this with you. John, I was there,
Wow.
and that's what it's like.
See, I mean, this is the thing, we've talked for quite some time now about we're heading into a world of unspeakable beauty, because it comes back to those the books, the Conversations with God, from
Hmm.
the old Donald Walsh. And the fact is that God explains that the power of group consciousness, of collective consciousness, it can take you to a world of unspeakable beauty or ugliness, but we have
Right.
that choice,
That's
right?
right.
We are creating that. We are creating that world of unspeakable beauty. I love the description. I can see, 200 years hence, I could see how the world is going to be so different. And it is great to know that it survives, right? Because you will always ask the question, you know, there are numerous timelines. I'm a big fan of, got his book here somewhere. It's over there. But yeah, Nostradamus. Okay. So,
Oh, yeah.
but again, Dolores Cannon, she did her, when she was doing her QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique, they tapped into Nostradamus. So he actually explained the quatrains, each one, every single one. And he talks about this as the time of troubles. And he talks about certain, timelines that he could see unfolding. And he saw, the Twin Tower attack. He saw the
Mm,
attack on the Pentagon. He saw Hitler in World War II in
mm,
incredible detail. But not everything is right because we have choices, right? We have free will. If he could put the ideas out to us and show us what he was seeing, then we could make alternative choices. And I
yeah.
think that better timelines have already occurred. I think that the consciousness is raising on the planet far faster than many believed it would. And I think
Mm.
that people are starting to step into their power. I remember Dolores in her Convoluted Universe series, I think it was, maybe even book 5, which was the final of that particular series, where John, it was a great somnambulistic channel for
Oh, wow.
information, from other planets and
Mm, mm.
various other things. But they decided to try a forward progression rather than a regression to see if it would even work. Because they had no idea. They'd never even tried it before. And it worked. And he went 100 years in the future, which took him to the 2080s. And at that time, he was incarnated as a woman, and he was on a spaceship heading towards Sirius, piloted by Syrian pilots. The whole place was buzzing. It was beautiful. It was wonderful, high vibrational kind of thing because she was a specialist, I think, maybe in architecture. And there were various specialists all from planet Earth who were going to learn on the planet to bring those skills back to planet Earth for the future. But it was but I remember the population of the planet was much smaller than it
Yeah.
is today.
Yes. And the
Um,
Hopi said that it would
right,
be, yeah,
a,
yeah,
a vastly smaller population. But the past was something they didn't delve into too much because they'd gone beyond that. They were now higher dimensional. They were
yeah.
focused on the positive.
Well, and what's so interesting is you're saying this to me is in this class, it was about past life regression. So we were all completely taken aback because we didn't, that's why I think I didn't recognize it because I'm going in expecting, but I'm
Yes.
looking around, and usually you do past life and you kind of get a feel for it. I remember I went in one time and it's like, oh, this is around the 1700s and it's in Paris, but I couldn't get it. And all of a sudden I come back and we're going, well, if all time, Quantum's told us that all time is happening at the same time.
Yeah.
I also appreciate the thing about the alternative futures and that there may be multiple futures happening at the same time because I keep counseling people. I love a lot of science fiction because I think a lot of those people are
Oh,
channeling, and I don't
absolutely.
know that all of them know it, but I
Yes.
mean, I was a Trekkie when I was a kid. Mr. Spock was my ideal. Not a great as a husband. Don't marry Mr. Spock, but he was certainly a great fantasy. But so many of like the Mad Max and so many of these movies and books now are dystopian. And I'm just, when people ask me, I try not to tell them what to do unless they ask me. Um, don't go there because
Yeah.
that is one of the futures. But when I had that experience, I felt like Spirit was saying, don't, do not cultivate that.
No.
Don't give it any attention or water. This is where you're intending to be heading with those who are moving towards that. And
Yes.
it was the thing I loved about it. It reminded me of being with some native people where it was really grounded and also psychic and spiritually open. There was no conflict between being earthed
Mm.
and being spirit. There was this beautiful integration, and that phrase of a world of unspeakable beauty. I
Yeah.
just, because beauty is one of the names of the divine.
Right.
And and I just anyway, I was so thrilled to be able to share this with you because I thought, oh my gosh, I touched into that.
Yeah.
And again, whether people hear it and they think, well, that was a nice dream or a lovely fantasy, it's like, well, if we're going to be fantasizing, what fantasy do you want to be filling yourself with?
Right, right. Because it's creating that vibration of the future.
That's
We're
it.
in this. This is one of the things that, and again, we've been encouraged to not believe that we are creator beings, and we are creator beings.
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
this is part of this big change is for us to come into our power and to
Yeah,
realize we are the creators of our own personal existence. So therefore, if you're enjoying life, you're doing something right. If there's anything, you don't need to look outside of yourself. And yes, absolutely, there are teachers out there who can teach us an awful lot and we can learn our way. But really, everything we need beyond that is here, you know? And one of the things that we got up here, our Socrates quote, which is our mission statement, which is the secret of change, is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new.
I that was part of what made me know there was a connection because back in the early days of the women's movement, I was very involved in the 70s and did a lot in the rape crisis field. And one of my favorite early feminist teachers, Sonia Johnson, said, we got to take our eyes off the guys. This is not about fighting patriarchy, which, by the way, is not about men. Patriarchy is inside of women as well.
Hmm.
It's not about fighting that. It's what do you want to create? And
Yes,
so, but I had no idea Aristotle said that. So, yeah, so and yeah, I just feel like you said there's incredible possibility. There is trouble and difficulty, but it's kind of like childbirth, that there's a lot of pain and difficulty in birth,
mm,
and we're going through a birthing process. It's also a dying process. The old has to die in order for the new to be born. So that's
absolutely.
why we need community, why I'm so grateful you folks are focused on community, because we're going to need to support one another because there's a lot of stuff trying to pull us. I remember years ago, John, having a dream where I was thinking of moving to California, but felt really responsible for my younger siblings. I grew up in an alcoholic family and there was a lot of distress.
Mm,
And the dream was I was in a canoe and my siblings were in the water with their arms reaching up and I'm pulling and pulling and pulling and trying that they're tipping and I'm almost falling and they half get in and I couldn't get them into the canoe. So I went in to see my counselor and she had me go into the dream and she said, what are they doing? And she said, I said, oh, they're trying to pull me out of the canoe into the water.
ah,
Not because they were bad or wanting to hurt me, but they were, I don't even want to say they were choosing to stay there. There wasn't an inkling that any other choice was possible. And so that freed me to love them and bless them. And Great Spirit, I turned them over to you and I left for California where my whole life changed.
yeah,
Um, so this is another thing. There are the people trying to keep us in the lower vibration. So we need the support of all these teachers and companions to help us do this job that we're being asked to do, that you're telling me that even people from other dimensions and planets are helping us with
for sure.
to come to this other place. So I know you need to scoop, but thank you so much for this time. This was delightful.
I know. I've loved it myself, and it's I do think that we have so much more ground to cover because we haven't even gone back to the 1700s yet to dig into that one. And because it's important, right? Because when people realize there is healing to be gained, physical healing in this lifetime to
That's
be
right.
gained by going into past lives and
That's right.
identify. Because Dolores did that so often. Well, it wasn't Dolores. She knew she wasn't doing it,
Mm, mm,
you
mm-hmm,
know. It
mm-hmm.
was actually, as she called it, the subconscious, but you can call it whatever you like. But
Yeah,
once you get to that point where it can, some physical ailments in this lifetime get resolved because that belonged in a previous lifetime,
that's right.
it's
It's
miraculous.
well, and again, like I told you, when it first happened to me, part of the reason why I believed it so deeply was it was completely unexpected. It
Mm,
was just out of the blue in the middle of something else. And this imagery thing happened. And then I never had a strep throat again. So it was kind of like, so that makes me, because if I'm sitting there going, gee, I have this belief in a past life and I'm going to go do this, there'd be a part of me, the skeptic, that's going, how much did your mind create
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
But I'm just doing a relaxation exercise and I'm in Paris in the late 1700s.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll do more of this, John. Blessings
Yes.
upon you and Jolie. Thank
Yeah.
you for who
Thank
you
you.
are and everything you're doing. And if I can any way support the people in your community through my experiences, oh my gosh, that would be an honor.
Absolutely. You know what? There's no accident here, Ruah. We know that.
I know.
You're on this journey with us, and what we want from our community is like input as well, because this is not just us figureheading it, and then everybody listens to us. We want, because it was interesting actually. Again, just very briefly, what you said about the people joining, sort of like and sending the energy in. A lady that I refer to as the High Priestess, which is Anita, who lives over in Italy. I met her in Sedona this year. It was on a
Oh,
Gregg Braden retreat.
oh,
But separate to that, she was staying at the same place. We ended up doing some hiking at Bell Rock, which is out there, beautiful, like in a big
oh,
vortex energy area. And while we were there, I was explaining to her a little bit about Dolores Cannon's work and the fact that how the pyramids and various other things were constructed using energy, where
mm,
the priest and priestess would direct the energy, and they would have people standing around in a circle, and they would direct the energy to whether it would be to cut stone, to levitate, to position, whatever. But
oh.
that was the job of the priest and priestess. And when I was having this, and then I looked around, and she was like it was like she was in a different world, because she was having a really strong vision, because she knew she had this vision even before she came out to Sedona, but that came back to her at that point. That was her role. Is like the priestess kind of thing, was directing that energy of the people in the circle, and the more people you have, the more energy it kind of creates. So when you mentioned that to me, I instantly thought of High Priestess Anita out there in Sedona, going back to that ancient vision that she'd had from her past.
And so here we are, 200 years in the future, where people have remembered these skills and gifts that our ancestors knew.
Yes,
Isn't that wonderful?
I love it.
Um,
I
oh,
love it. What a fantastic life this is, Roy.
I know. Well, listen, blessings upon you and Jolie, and I will look forward to seeing what you're. I have to work tomorrow at 11 my time, but as soon as
Yeah.
I get it on my YouTube, I watch it and I
Yeah.
sit and
No,
my old dog sits on the couch next to me and we meditate together.
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. What's your dog's name?
Annie, get your
Annie.
gun. She's a 50. I went to the shelter because I had an 8-year-old dog, Humphrey,
Mm.
and I was looking for a middle-aged dog to be his companion. I came home with a 1-year-old Cairn Terrier because I saw her face and we just sort of looked at each other. You know how it is. It's like,
Yes.
yep, you're my dog. So
Yeah. Yeah.
she's my old lady.
Yeah. I love it. Okay.
All right,
Well,
dear.
fantastic. Love having the chat with you, and it's going to be the first of many. I'm convinced of that.
I would love that. All right, dear.
Yeah.
I'm like, I actually have to sort of, when you say that, I have to tell you, I need to sort of stop and breathe that in because I've been working in this small circle and my guides are saying your stories would be helpful for a bigger circle. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to just breathe that one in, breathe that one in, John. So, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
No, I
All
love
right.
it. I love
All
it.
right.
It's you're a gift to us, Ruah. So,
Oh,
thank you.
you're welcome. My best to Jolie too. All right. All
I'll
right.
pass that on. All right.
All
You
right.
take care.
Bye, dear.
Dear. Bye.